Hello, fellow warriors. Welcome to a new episode of Divided, Survived, and Thriving, where I get to have candid conversations about turning the painful process of divorce into a positive force in your life. I am Lila Aiken Ali, a divorcee, divorce coach, and the founder of Split.fyi, which is an online divorce community rich in resources and information for anyone going through a divorce or separation. I am super grateful to have these conversations with survivors of divorce who are willing to share their stories and how they overcame their battle scars to achieve peace and purpose in their lives. I do believe strongly in the power of story, and I hope that their tried and true pearls of wisdom will help guide you through your process of separation and keep you in good company along the way. Like so many people I have spoken to, divorce has helped empower them, and it taught me how to be my own best advocate. So I hope it can do the same for you. So without further ado, my guest for today is my dear, dear friend, Natalie Goldstein. And some of you know that I love having my good friends on the show. So it wouldn't be any surprise to you, but having these friends were gold dust when I went through my own divorce. She is a very talented artist, a photographer, and is so supportive of her friends and their business adventures. She's a proper girl's friend. That's what I would call her. She has been a single mother for 19 years now, since her son was 6 months old. So today we will dive into what single motherhood represented for her and how she managed her career, being a single parent, dating, growing, and healing through the process. Hello, Natalie.
Hi, gorgeous.
Welcome. I'm so happy that you took
having me.
Oh, well, thank you for being here on a Sunday, your Sunday afternoon or night. And I know that
Evening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Evening. My Sunday morning. I got my coffee.
I got my hot drink. Don't worry, we're both there. It should be a gin and tonic, but I think I'll do that afterwards.
Yeah, afterwards, exactly. So tell us a little bit about your story. I'm trying to throw you into the dark and like, oh, here we go. Let's start from the start. But I think it's good for people to know.
Yeah. Okay, where do I start? Hang on 1 second. It's always the way. Both of you, are you coming down? See, yeah. That's what happens being a parent. Your children turn up.
We know.
Where are you going?
We're going to get some hot chocolate supplies. I was wondering if you would like hot chocolate.
As you do.
Well, you raised a son. You raised a very sweet son. I mean, come on. Okay.
So give me 2 minutes, and we will have this conversation. Both of you will leave. I'm fine with the hot chocolate.
Okay.
And I will see you shortly.
Cool.
See?
I love that.
It's never ending, by the way, just for anyone who gets it. Like, parenting doesn't stop. My son's 20 years old now. And it still doesn't stop. I walked in earlier on and, I told you, I said, the first thing he said to me is, are you making dinner? What are you going to be making?
I know.
Oh, okay, great. What time's that?
I know. I love it. I mean, look, I love the improv. I love the improv too. I mean, first of all, now the audience has an idea of what an amazing son that you have raised, because I can honestly say that he thought of you as he was walking out the door to get hot chocolate is sweet. Very sweet. Most kids
are sweet. He asked if I wanted hot chocolate. I should have said, darling, you're old enough now to buy me some gin or some vodka. I think probably with this lockdown tier 4, I think you just put a little bit stronger in there.
Oh my God. I know.
So you asked me a question. I'm so sorry. Can you just backtrack just what quickly the question was?
So I think it'd be good for the audience to know. So, I've obviously mentioned in my intro that from 6 months old, your son was 6 months old, you found yourself as a single parent. So I think it would be good to understand just really, okay, God, that must, I know that very well, that feeling. And so I really would love you to share, like, what are the thoughts that were going through your mind? So, how did you cope, basically?
Yeah. So, look, I was 26. I got married young, pregnant, obviously. And, 6 months old, my now ex-husband, obviously, he rejected me halfway through my pregnancy.
Right.
And I mean, as we all know, being pregnant, you lose your brain cells. In fact, I always say, even to my cousins, I even turn around and say, every time you have a child, you probably lose 20% of your brain cells. They never come back. We're never getting them back. I mean, thank God I've got the smartest child in the world who's studying physics, quantum physics at university. But the reality is I have lost probably most of my brain cells. Maybe I didn't have so many to start with, but who knows?
Stop it.
I mean, but you never know. But, I remember at the time, just, I had someone who put me down. He was much older than me. He was just under nearly 13 years older than me. And I loved him very much. Very, very much. I thought I thought he was my best friend. We went through a lot of different things together, and he was always there, even, with ex-boyfriends or any scenarios, because he knew me from the age of sort of 15, 16 years old. So it wasn't someone who I didn't know. I mean, I kind of suppose I knew he was a naughty boy, but I didn't really see. I always thought that, if we had problems, it wouldn't be because of those things. I thought that our friendship was solid enough that no one would be able to break that. And it did get broken. And to the point that when someone rejects you physically, especially at a young age, I mean, I never knew what it was to sort of grow out of a size 24 pair of jeans. And all of a sudden I'm like growing out of my jeans, when you get pregnant and you're in, and I remember going to hospital even, and no one told me, because I didn't have any friends at that time that were having babies. No one told me, oh, you're not going to get into your jeans. I remember packing my jeans to the hospital even.
That's hilarious.
I mean, hilarious. I mean, listen, I have to say it was comical. I mean, I had a t-shirt saying more epidural. He had a t-shirt saying midwifery on it. We had like Erica Badu, Carlos Santana being played. I mean, a typical Jewish family. I'm in full like labor. I'm not giving, they're having to give me something to induce me. I mean, I'm sitting there waiting to go into labor properly. Jewish family bring smoked salmon and bagels, and they're playing backgammon at the foot of my bed. I mean, it's like a nut house. And I'm sitting there like
filmable. I love it.
On the medications. I mean, comedy beyond.
Yeah, it's filmable. I love it.
I remember, I mean, the day he walked out was, I mean, I had lost my grandparents within 10 weeks before I gave birth to my son. I lost 2 grandparents. I gave birth. My husband was rejecting me, and I was so sad. I didn't know what to do. I was too young. I didn't have the tools.
Yeah.
I didn't have the tools of how, I had people who were older than me telling him to just, you've got a great girl here, you've got a great woman, she's going to grow, watch her evolve, you're going to see she's going to grow. I can't and I won't. And that's because he unfortunately was already with someone else.
Right.
And you know what, when you don't, when you're not 100% sure of what's going on, and it was a fight, I didn't want to fight. I was trying to hold my head strong.
Yeah.
And actually, more than anything, I was just trying to be a parent. I was trying to figure out like basics, like, I mean, look, I think for me, not everyone, parenting comes natural. I think to me, it's just second nature, kind of. I don't think about it. Don't think about things too deeply. I mean, it's like, okay, my baby's, at the beginning, it's like wind, poop, cuddle, milk. Do you know what I mean? It's really quite basic at the beginning. But I was still trying to figure it out. I mean, I remember, I don't know if you were the same, but I mean, when I gave birth to him, I remember I kept on taking his clothes off. It was like having a live dolly. So I'd take his clothes off, then I'd get him dressed again, and then I'd take him off again. And I remember my husband looking at me going, "What are you doing?" I'm like, just checking him out.
Yeah, it's like this little.
I was 25.
I mean, it is. I mean, a new baby. You just I can't believe this. It is phenomenal, and they so rely on you. They can't walk. They can't do anything.
Yeah, but you know what? I think I am so grateful to my boy, because without him knowing it, he got me through the last 20 years. That face, when that face smiles at you,
right?
When they're little and they cooing at you and they touch your face, and you're their world. It made all the negatives and all the bad things, no matter how hard it was, I just loved him so much that I just wanted him to have that happy childhood. So, you know, while we were going through the fights, the divorce, my ex didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to fight with him. And I wasn't asking for very much. I just wanted him to be a good human being to me. That's another story. We don't need to go too deep into how, because I don't really think people should hear negatives. I want people to hear positives of things. But the most
struggle. Yeah.
It was a real struggle. But, you know, I mean, look, I spent a lot of time crying, you know, on my own. But I would never cry in front of my son. Right. And so, but when he would see me, you know, like, Mama, what's Mama? And I go, oh no, Mommy's got something in her eye. You know, I'd make a, you know, or I'd wait for him to fall asleep, and then I would crumble on the floor, literally. But, you know, the minute he was there awake,
you put yourself in gear.
I was making the food. I was doing what I had to do. It was like you go into survival mode. Right. And, you know, it's really important to focus on what's important. And at that point, the most important thing is your baby, is your child and your health. Forget outside anything. Do you know what I mean? You want support group, which is your family. And if you have one or two friends, and that's not the people that go, oh, you okay? Can you tell me everything? People that just want to hear shit are not your friends.
Oh God, I love that you're saying that, because I wanted to talk to you about that. And it is, considering it was like 19 years of this, that you always have some friends and family telling you how you should do things, you know, want to know what's bad or stir things up. Sometimes they love
stir the cauldron and wind you up, and then you come back and you're like, you know, you know, and you don't, you know, you want to have people, and if people can't be give you helpful advice, you need to say to those people, and I think it's really important to find your voice in all of this and say, look, I really appreciate what you're trying to say to me, but you're not helping me. You're actually being negative, or you're making me more anxious, and you're making me hurt. I wish I had, by the way, I wish I had a me 20 years ago. Seriously. Right. I mean, I had this, trust me, I felt my way through it.
Oh,
you know,
sure.
I've had 10 years of court battle at the beginning. It took me 10 years to stop him from taking me to court.
Right.
I mean, he would take me to court every 3 months just because he financially could.
Yeah.
If I said black, he'd say blue. If he said blue, he'd say black.
Right. It just became a fight between somebody who just wanted to win all the time. And I mean, I know that song and dance, and it's interesting because
it's draining.
Well, it's
very draining.
And, you know, the only person that really gets affected are the kids. Those are the people that get affected, the children that are involved.
Yeah.
Because
but it's really important.
Even though you protect them, though, listen, the energy is still transferred. They understand. And the older that they get, the more that they understand. So it is a shame, and it is unfortunate you had to go into that battle. And I love what you just said, because I really want to circle back on that. It's like, I always often ask people this, I'm like, you know, what would you have done differently? You know, and a lot of people always say, well, if I was the way I am now, back then, then it would be great. But I guess you can't get to that.
If I knew what I knew now, let me tell you something, his balls would be on the mantelpiece right now.
In 2 seconds flat.
He wouldn't have got away with shit. But I was so young. I mean, he treated me like a business deal. Literally, I was treated like nothing more than a ruthless business deal that had to be won. And he wanted to make sure he destroyed me. He didn't give a shit that I was the mother of his child. It was just about the win.
Right.
And you know, straight for the jugular. And I mean, I've never met anyone like that. Can you imagine? I'm 25, 26. I'm God. And I'm trying to figure out how to be a mum at the same time.
Yep.
Plus, I had nowhere to go. He told me I wasn't welcome to join us in our home. I had to find a rental flat. He didn't want to pay even for the rent of a flat while we could sort this out. I mean, he didn't want to do anything. And we're not talking about a man that couldn't have afforded to do the right thing.
Right.
I mean, you have to understand, he took the bed and the kettle. And I'm still using a kettle, remember, to boil water.
Yeah.
Told me to go and live with your mother. Now, don't ask me for anything kind of thing. And I was like, well, I said, well, hang on a second.
And at 25, I mean, you're so, that's a really hard thing because you don't have the strength. I mean, you're still a girl.
You're still a girl. You know what? I was a child with a child. You know, he was amazing though, Devar. I mean, I'm in awe of my own kid. I know that sounds a really weird thing to say, but don't get me wrong, he's a messy shit.
I love you.
He's a kid, you know what I mean? But as a human being, and I have a lot of people say this to me, he's just beautiful. He's a beautiful soul. He's a beautiful energy. He's funny. He's talented. He's creative. He's messy. You know, I keep on moving goalposts. I would say I move goalposts with him. You know, I would go, oh, when he's 12, he's going to be able to do this. And then, you know, a few things I don't do. And then you go, okay, well, when he's 16, he'll be able to do this, this, and this. Yeah. When he's 18, you know, and then I'm like, when he gets to 25, he's going to be able to dishwasher, wash his clothes. His room's going to be spotless. And then I would have done the most amazing job. Right. Without those things, he's perfect. But there's a few things I need to fix.
Listen, it all comes in time. I always say that it's a big dance. And I think as a single parent, to be honest, we put more pressure on ourselves because you say, oh my God, we have to, who else is going to teach them? Or who else is going to be that role model? And we take it upon ourselves.
Well, because you don't have the other person to talk to, you know, not everyone, you know, there are people that are very good at the co-parenting, but when your co-parent has an interfering second person, so there's now a third person in the mix that's insecure and spiteful and has their own issues on themselves, they cause even more problems for you.
Yeah.
And so then you suddenly figure out very quickly that, you know, when your kid's running a fever, you know, I remember when my son, I think, got chickenpox, you know, I think I spent 5 days with my kid literally glued to me at 3 years old. I remember having to pee with him on my lap. I mean, just literally
I did that too. I know that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember calling my mom saying, my mom goes, you know, are you okay? You know, I said, I need someone just to take him for like 10 minutes out of my arms because I've done 5, you know, and then, you know, when the hard bit's over and then they phone you up, go, you know, I want to come over and see him. And I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I don't, you know, you get angry and you don't mean to be angry. And you know what? You don't mean to be angry. But you know what? When you're young and you go, you know what? You could have come and helped out right from the beginning, but you chose not to.
So this is really, okay, I find, whether you're young or not, by the way, because I have clients and community of older people who feel the same way, FYI. So that anger.
Quiet. Can you come in silence, please? Thank you.
That anger surrounds everyone. And so they're making decisions upon that anger, right? So what happens is even though as much as you love your kid, you find yourself making these decisions or you know, questioning some things because you're so angry at the other partner, right? So and then you're like, no, you don't deserve to do this, you don't deserve to do that. But in the end of the day, taking all that and looking back, and I know we've all done this and we all go through this, you think, oh, well, actually the child needs him. And no matter when it is, you know, and sometimes actually they're not able to help. Like as a mom, for example, your role is significantly different than a father's. And so holding your child for 5 to 6 days and doing all that, I don't think any man, even when you're with a man, would be doing something like that. So, but now,
and if he is, then you know you're questioning his sexuality.
Yeah, then you're wondering, right? Like, no, it's tough. It is a very tough. It would be amazing. Like, honestly, I don't know.
I've never met that type of man because
I've never met that type of man either.
No, the men in my family don't work that way either.
No,
do you know what I mean? Like,
but there, to your point, though, it's an interesting thing because while you're in it and your mind is in it, you're coming from a place of anger and you're looking back and going, yeah, I did all these things. I made these things. And a lot of the fight was just because two people are angry at each other, or you definitely, because and justifiably, I mean, you're doing it on your own and it's exhausting.
Yeah. I think something that's really important. And I do want to say this because I think there are a lot of women out there that they get divorced and they get angry and resentful, and then they want to turn the kids against the other person. And so he may have had an affair and he could have done this and whatever. But you know what? It's not the kid's fault. So don't put your negativity on that child. You have to stand neutral, no matter how much you're fighting, no matter how much it's awful, and no matter how much pain it hurts. And you have to make sure that you turn around and say, Mommy loves you, Daddy loves you. And it's really important that the child sees both parents and has a great relationship with both parents. You know, irrelevant of what you think, because children are not stupid. They figure it out, they work it out, you know, but they still, you want to have a balanced child in life. You want them to know that Mummy loves you and Daddy loves you, irrelevant of everything else.
I agree 100%. I love that you touch point on that, because that is so important. I think that we lose sight of that. A lot of people lose sight of that out of the anger. And you know,
anger's a very vicious and dangerous emotion, especially when two people fall out of love, or one is still scorned and hurt and resentful, and the other one's being nasty and, you know, doing all these things. You're only going to damage the child, or children if you have more than one, and it's so unfair on them, because you know what, you love those children, so wouldn't you want them to grow up with a positive energy, not a negative? I mean, that's something I feel like I always protected my kid, you know, going through these things. I remember once when he must have been about 6 or 7, he said to me, he looked at me one day and goes, Mummy, you don't like Daddy, you don't like my daddy, you don't like him, do you? And I said to him, actually, no, darling, it's not that Mummy doesn't like Daddy. Daddy hasn't done anything to make Mummy like him for a very long time. And I said, you know, it's like being in the school playground. If a child's not being very nice to you for constantly, non-stop, like always, when you try and go and play with them and they're not going to be kind, I said, you're going to still talk to them. And it's the only way you can make them understand in a kind way.
I like
you
that.
know, I wanted him to know that I you know, loved his dad, you know, wouldn't have been there otherwise. You know, you can't change someone else's actions. You can only change yours.
Actually, I really like what you just said, because interestingly, a lot of people say, well, you know, I certainly don't want to be lying, or how much can you tell a child, or how much, you know, we all fall in that imbalance of how much can you share? Should you share? Should you not be lying?
Don't lie.
You don't want to lie, blatantly lie. But I think what you said was, you know, referencing it to what he can understand in the playground is golden. I mean, that's an exact way, because then he's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, you know, somebody's not being nice to you. You guys aren't getting along. It's okay. You don't want to be hanging out with them. Totally.
Yeah.
It diffuses that whole, exactly.
It diffuses the question. And you know what, even sometimes he'd come home, you know, quite anxious, you know, from his dad when he was little. And I always would see the change of his mood, you know, because obviously my house is a little bit more bohemian, and you know, kisses and cuddles, and, you know, and over there is
regimental.
Yeah. And he would come home, and if he'd had a fight with his dad, he was scared to tell me, but he would come home and he would actually take it out on me. And so I used to have this other thing that's also quite a good tool for anyone who feels that, you know, that their children come back with a different energy to when they left. You know, he would come back, and I'd say to him, you know, sorry, someone sent me a message. I'd say, you know what, baby, let's just talk a second. I said, because start with, hi, Mummy, how are you? And how was your weekend? I said, because you obviously haven't had, you know, whatever's happened over at Daddy's, if you want to talk about it, I'm here. And if you don't, it's okay too. I said, but I haven't seen you all weekend, and I'm really so excited to have you home. So let's start again. And he would say to me, Mummy, can we start again? I'd say, yes. And he'd say, Mummy, hi, how are you? You know, and it's a good way to teach them. You keep doing it till they get into this rhythm of understanding that it's okay to ask each other, or to come home and say, Mummy, I'm tired, you know, I didn't have a good weekend. And it doesn't have to be anything negative. It could be maybe they just found it hard to sleep over there.
Right.
it doesn't necessarily always have to be a negative connotation. So, people have to remember not to sort of jump up, oh, what did he do? Or what did she do?
Exactly.
Or, do you know what I mean?
You're just holding space for him
this.
to actually just talk to you.
It's not necessarily this. It's
no,
also,
I agree.
It's like also, you have different, obviously now my kid eats whenever he wants. In fact, he's eating now and probably will eat again when I make more food. But, back then, when they're younger, you have your regimented times of they're going to eat, they're going to sleep, because if they don't eat if you push that window too long, they're grumpy, they're irritable, and they're screaming and it's because you've actually pushed them too far.
Right.
Where they're hungry. So then you're dealing with this, it's, the sugar levels basically have dropped. And it's about understanding human nature, human body, and all of those things. And it's the same thing, they go to the other side, the other side doesn't maybe feed them the same time you would have fed them. And so their clock's all messed up again. And, and then you got to fix the clock. And then as you fix the clock, it starts all over again.
Well, that's the thing that I think a lot of people feel very resentful towards that. I mean, it's like, a lot of people, I hear this a lot. Oh, they come back and it's like, oh, I've got to reconstruct all the things that I've been working on. And especially,
or they want to control, or they want to try and control what's going on the other side. And you mustn't.
Yeah,
it's not your business. It's not your business. You can make a suggestion. You can turn around and say, look, you know what? I mean, look, I'm sure I definitely made mistakes. And so I sit there and I think today, would I have had different communication if I been able to phrase it differently? But I think, making a suggestion, saying, I think it would benefit, whatever your children's name are, or our, always use the word our, not I, because our is a very key word in being a parent, because it's not your child or their child, it's both of yours.
I agree.
So when you use the word our constantly and you keep repeating that, you're clarifying you are a team connected, trying to co-parent.
Right.
And so when you do that, you're asking, you're saying, I really appreciate it if maybe we together could try it this way and see if it works better. If it doesn't, I understand, but it would be a great help, I think, maybe for our children or our child,
right?
To benefit long term. If it doesn't work, but I'd love you to give it a try.
Yeah.
And they'll either say no,
and
in which case, accept it, move on, figure it out, find another solution.
Exactly.
But don't try to control, because the minute you try to control someone else's home, someone else's house, someone else's life, you are going to get their back up even further as well.
I agree. And then the animosity between the two just remains.
And it just builds. It just builds and builds.
It becomes a control. It becomes a relationship on control, right? One wants to control one.
Who's going to win?
Who's going to win?
And there's always going to be one that's going to be stronger anyway. So you know what? Sometimes it's better to take the seat back and say, you know what? You're still winning because you're not willing to engage.
Yes. That is a win. That is a win.
You're winning. You're winning by taking your own power back at that point.
Oh, I love that you said that. I say that often, and I love that you said that. And it's essential because it really
took me years, by the way, to figure that one out.
Oh, I know. I mean, you and I are very years. We have similar stories.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a trial and error for sure. And listen, I wouldn't expect anybody to right away get it off the bat, because we are humans, and our triggers and our trigger points get pushed. And also when there's children involved, especially when there are children involved, we're protective. And to a certain degree, we do think we know better and we can do better. There is that,
And I think it's also,
there is a certain degree of
totally
ownership around that. So
and I think it's also, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. My brain was going.
Go.
Sorry, it's like also, when you're dealing with a control freak or a bully, bullies, they bully. So sometimes the only way to stop a bully is you have to literally put your boundary up straight away. Even if it says, I am not speaking to you until this stops, which I've done, by the way.
Yeah, great. I love that.
And you deal with the secretary, whatever, do it by email, whatever it is. Cut it down to minimum of everything until someone can learn to, and say, until you can speak to me or this is being handled correctly. I'm not willing to engage. And just because at that point you are taking your power back. You're not being someone who's, because a bully will use you like a punch bag constantly. I know, I had it. So you have to take that strength back. And you know what, the minute you do it, it may take years to get your life feeling strong again. And it did take me years to stand strong. But I stand today and I'm happy. I'm happy. Listen, I don't have a boyfriend right now. I've had some lovely boyfriends two that were really amazing in my life over the years, but they're lessons. And you know what? If someone's not a positive energy coming into your life, don't let it in. Do you know what I mean? It's okay to be on your own. It's okay to be on your own. Do you know what I mean? Listen, no one wants to be on their own. We all want to feel love, especially right now with this tier 4 in London.
Oh yeah. Well,
I mean, I'll show you. This is the love of my life these days.
Oh, love.
Oh, he says no, not right now, Mum.
So sweet.
But yeah, it's. I want women to don't just. You see some of these women. They're like they've got kids. Their children are seeing too many men coming in and out of their lives. It's not healthy.
No, it's not healthy.
And I think really not. Take your time.
Yeah, and I think they're afraid because I think there's a lot of fear that goes into, oh my God, can I actually, first of all, it's a couple of things. It's fear, it's trust. It's trusting yourself that you can do this on your own because it is a fearful unknown, right? Especially starting from 6 months old.
You can do it though. Trust me, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Too, as a single mom. And I remember thinking, it's like, wow, this is it. You can do it for sure. I mean, really, you can do it with a lot of love and, understanding and trial and error and all of that. It's okay. Nobody does it perfectly anyway. Even if you're completely prepared and, have a loving husband and everything is, fantastic, it's still the trial and error. And it's still, it's a daunting experience no matter what, but you can do it on your own. And so, and I do agree with you. And this is something we have talked about in the past. I mean, there's a lot of things here that we're packing in. And I think one of the things that
we have to do part 2.
Yeah, we will. The dating will be part 2 for sure. But what I like about what you're saying, it's like there's so many seasons, if you'd like, in divorce, right? And in separation and in parenting. And so, and all of this going together in one, like, i.e. going in and out of court, managing the relationship with your ex-husband, managing the relationship with your child, figuring out.
Yeah, and it's not a race. People are always on this race. I got to get divorced. I got to get married. I got to find someone else. I got to get married quickly again. I got to settle down again. I've got to because no one's going to accept me in society if I am not with someone and the whole. And it's like, relax. It's not a race. Life is not a race.
I agree.
No one's going to look at you for being better or worse.
No.
Take your time, get it right. So you made, so you fell in love with the wrong person. It happens. Unfortunately, divorce is not an exclusive club anymore.
No, it definitely is not. Wow, it's like the golden.
I mean, I thought I was in an exclusive club. It's just getting so popular these days. I feel very common.
It's so true. It's so true. Unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. And I mean, like you were young. I was quite young, not as young as you. But
still very young.
We were the first in our peers. All relevant, and when you're in the first amongst your peers to go through it, like you said, it's like even having a child. You're like, I didn't know I was taking my genes. I mean, it's the same concept. It's like, I don't know what to do in divorce. I mean, you're having a kid is this, for the first time. There's very little that you really do know except for what people tell you around you. That's why it's so essential to have those mommy groups and kind of camaraderie around it and other people going through it. So you feel it. It's the same as divorce. It's like, if you don't know what to do and how to do things, you're just swimming. And you're so impressioned by, the fear, what's coming out.
Also, none of your friends are doing it. So you've got no one to talk to.
They don't want to hear
it. So, because they don't understand it. I mean, remember when I would go out with my cousins, my friend, whatever. We'd go out to a club, we'd go for a meal, and I would sit there going, like, okay, I've been out 5 hours. That's babysitting time. So I'd have to think about how much that was costing me, babysitter. Then obviously then there's the paying of the dinner.
Right.
And then literally as the club would be getting off at 12:30, I'd be like, okay, I gotta go, bye. And everyone would be like, why are you leaving? And you're like, yeah, I got to get up tomorrow. And they're like, yeah, so do I. And I'm like, no, I really do have to get up tomorrow. My little one's going to be waking me up for his bottle. And they're like, yeah. So we got to get up too. I got work. And I'm like, no, trust me. If you want to snooze, you could snooze. Mine's like crawling all over the place. And
it's very different.
You know?
Different
And you know what? And also,
style.
you don't want to be grumpy for your kid.
Right.
You know, the last thing you want to do is when this little face smiles at you with his milk and, you know, and you're having this, you're like, you don't want to take it out on them because you're grumpy because you need a bit more sleep. You can just go and do the late morning nap with them.
Right. And there's a lot of guilt that's involved too. You're like, okay, I can't, you know, there's less guilt when you're going into an office or working or doing something. There's a lot of guilt.
I used to take that 11 Z's with him if I was tired.
Right.
Oof. I used to try and wear him out.
Yeah.
Like literally, I'd have him in like extra classes after school, kickboxing, gymnastics, swimming, as many things I get him into just to try and get him to go to sleep and tire him out. I'd take him upstairs to go to sleep. I'd fall asleep next to him 4 or 5 in the morning. I'd wake up next to him, like all screwed up on this bed every night for years. And people would phone you up going, well, where are you? And I'm like, I'm just so tired.
I know, it's exhausting. It's exhausting. You were going through
great for the figure though. Great for the figure.
It's great for the figure, but like, you know, I have to say, and that's the upside. We love that. I love the upsides of creating. Yeah. But it also, it's an emotional roller coaster that you're on too. I mean, not only as being hormonal, okay, let's put that into the mix. And it's a constant roller coaster with hormones after having a kid. And I don't, you know, people say, oh, after 6 months.
It takes a couple of years, for the hormones to straighten out.
Oh yeah, even more sometimes. And it depends on how long you breastfeed. It depends on how long this. So, you know, and I think men find it very hard to appreciate that part of a woman and what they're managing and they're handling things because hormones. I mean, I remember after 2 years, I literally had almost a nervous breakdown. I hadn't slept in 2 years. You know, your body is all up for sports. I just stopped breastfeeding. You know, it was, the whole thing was so much to take on.
You know what it is? That sleep deprivation, isn't it? That sleep deprivation. Oh my God, it's the worst. You sit there and you're like, I mean, I remember that.
Okay, so then there's all that. So, you know, you managed. So tell me some of the things. I mean, you've said a lot of things that you learned along the way, especially around parenting, co-parenting, rising above what was thrown at you, you know, in the beginning, and especially going in and out of court and, you know, trial and error. I know there's anger there. So what are some of the things that you, even if you've learned them now and you didn't do it back then, managing anger? Because that is something I think that.
Okay, so I learned probably about 5-6 years into it. I mean, I don't think I slept for the first 5-6 years because I was getting abusive text messages. Trust me, I wasn't sleeping at night. I mean, by the way, if anyone wants to ever ask me questions, they can ask me questions through you or.
I'm going to put your details on so they can.
They can ask me private messages if they want, with pleasure. But I remember, you know, having this lawyer because it was the only way to stop the court cases, and she wanted to find out actually how vicious this person, you know, how vicious he was being towards me. And so we didn't let them know, you know, my ex know that I had anyone at the time.
Right.
And she taught me the most important thing because, you know, when someone sends you these horrible text messages, which we've all had, and it is just vile and lies and stuff like that, and you just go
breaking down
and you want to respond. The best advice I can give is don't do anything. Sit, take a deep breath, and this is what I learned from a lawyer. Take a deep breath. You don't have to answer it till the next day if you don't want to. Let them bombard you. Just breathe. Think about it before you respond. Think. And make sure that whatever your answer is, it is precise, to the point, and you're not going into don't get into a slagging match.
Right.
He said, she said, he did it. Don't do that. Just make your point clear and stop. Don't get into a texting war, because you will not win. What will happen is it just goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's who's going to have the last word.
Right.
Don't. Make your point clear, step back, leave it. You've done it. And that was from a very, very amazing female top child case lawyer.
Love that. Because
and I have so much respect for this woman all day long. I mean, all day.
And for a lawyer to say that, I think that's brilliant, because oftentimes you find and you see that, you know, the lawyers are the ones who are lawyer letter. Sometimes the fight becomes lawyer letters back and forth in cases. So it's just one thing to the other. And I mean, I remember looking at some of the letters that were going back and forth in my case, and you know, I didn't even understand half of those words that they were using.
It was like the Chinese now.
I had to look it up. I was like, what does that mean? What are they calling me? What does that mean? I think they called me a cause celeb, but I don't even know what that is. I was like, what the hell?
A what?
Yeah. A cause celeb. I mean, I literally was like,
what's that literally mean? Sorry, this is my other one. This, as you know, this is the other little one. Just so everyone gets to meet both of them. This is a girl, the other one was a boy.
Nice.
Both needing my attention.
If you haven't guessed it, the audience, Natalie loves her animals. Very big.
I'd have a dog as well. I just don't think I've got the time right now to have a dog too. So I just go to my dad's to get the dog because he's got the dog. That. I would though. You know me, I'd have a house of animals if I could.
Oh, I know, an animal farm. So yeah, going back to this, it's like, it's an interesting, what you say is what I always say to people, but we feel compelled that we need to respond. We feel compelled that we need to be right. We feel compelled that we need to show that, you know,
what ego. That's ego.
What they said was wrong. Exactly. So part of dissipating the anger, well, it's ego and anger, because you're like, no, you're not right and I'm right. And that's, how dare you say those things?
Yeah.
But all of those things are
built up.
Right. But all those things, like you were saying, are meant to really break you and break you down. So to keep that sanity and keep that in check, what your lawyer told you was brilliant, because really it is. It's like, don't answer, breathe it out, know that it's all false. You know your truth. You really know your truth, because even they can call you all these names or call you and say all these things, but you're like, well, that's all BS anyway. So
well, exactly. So what happens is if you answer too quickly, you're answering in haste, you're answering in anger, and you're not thinking level-headed, because you're like, you know, you want to kill them. You're like, literally, I want to kill you. Literally, like that feeling is like, you can feel it. And, I can't believe it, bloody said that. And actually, if you can just sit back calmly, especially if you've got any animals, you know what? If you've got a dog, go for a walk. Yeah. Go for a walk before you do anything. Get your baby, get your kids, whatever it is. Go, come on. Don't have to say why you're doing something. Obviously, if it's middle of the night, don't be stupid and do that. No. You know, if you've got a cat like I do, you know, I have to say, therapeutically, cats are amazing. They lower the heart rate naturally. So when you stress out, the more you stroke an animal, the calmer you become.
My doggy does that to me, so I know.
Yes, very well. Any animal that you can just sit there and relax with, and just stay calm for a minute. And you know what? If you have that one person that you know you can rationally talk to, maybe pick up the phone to that person, you know, and say, I need to just vent for 5 minutes. This is what's just happened. And then I need someone who's going to be that, you know, you need the rational person that's going to go, okay, how do you think I should answer this? This is what I want to say, but I know I shouldn't say it this way.
Right.
And because then you've got someone who's actually not emotionally attached to the situation, but they care about you enough that hopefully they're intelligent enough as well in your life to help you answer that calmly, rationally, to the point. Because the more you do that, because usually I think when I think about it back, you know, it's been so long now, but you know, when I think back on all the texting and the abuse and the constant back and forth, and it was about trying to wear you down, like you said, and it's about bullying. It's just being a bully. So the only way to stop the bully is by being strong, putting straight to the point, and not getting into, because they get bored eventually. Trust me.
Well, they know
it may take years.
Yeah, but then it's not working. They know that it's not working. And
it's not working.
Exactly. No, I think that's, I mean, I say this often, and I love that you said that. And I think that that's a key takeaway in what you went through it's important. Now, unfortunately, you had to go through a trial and error for many years doing that. And nowadays we're so well versed in understanding. I mean, now we have people like me who's divorce coach. I say this, and when I was going through mine, I was like, I need a divorce doula. I need somebody who's like.
But you know
really-
what? You were always this. When you lived here, I mean, I miss you so much. Come home. But you know what I mean. All I know is that we would go out, and the most important thing was those girls' nights where we would laugh, and whatever was going on in our lives, having that good girl power of a couple of girls that we can just be together, all of us, and just, even if tomorrow you're going to get one of those annoying messages, oh God, it's the handover day, and you think, oh my God, I'm going to miss my child, I'm not going to see them all weekend. Try and learn, my cousins would say it to me as well, try and learn to enjoy that time alone. I really struggled at the beginning, because I didn't have any, when you don't have someone, when you got someone in your life, it's great, but don't. And also the other thing I really want to say is, when you have children, especially as they start to hit teenagers, don't cling to your kids when you don't have a partner.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? There's a consistency. Like, I've never clung to my son. Like, yes, he knows I miss him. Yes, he knows I'm like, are you going to come home? I'll make you food, bribe him with food.
Right.
But don't cling to them, because I've seen women, single women, when the kids are teenagers, when they've got a boyfriend, they're like, they're like, whatever, I'm busy, doing their thing. Yes, of course, I do what you want. The minute they're on the road, no, you've got to come home. You need to be here now.
Right.
That clinging, pulling in. Don't do it. It's so detrimentally damaging.
It makes them feel guilty if they're not with you, and if you're putting it on to them.
Don't put the guilt on the kid. It's not their fault that you're single.
No.
You know what?
It isn't your fault their fault in any of it, to be honest.
No.
So this is the life that they were dealt.
Let them be with their friends. They're meant to be with their friends at 13 and 14 and 15,
Oh God, mine's already, and she's not even 12 yet. It's like, that's way better for her. I have to chase her around the house to try to hug her.
Exactly.
Yeah. Before, she would just hug me all the time. I'm like,
why do you think I have these? This is why I have this.
Thank God for my dog too. I know. Anyway, I think, listen, Natalie, this is awesome. I know you have to go and feed your child.
Do you know how many? By the way,
always a child.
Can I tell you something? Have you seen me a couple of times? I've been doing this because he keeps on wandering behind.
Oh, I know. I can imagine. He's like the hunger machine is back there.
Yes, it's. They're not saying anything. It's just that kind of look of like, come on already, come on. It's a guy look.
I got it.
It's the guy look. Guys do that. It's like,
they do. When they're hungry, especially.
And by the way, if you saw him, he's so skinny and thin. He eats so much, but he's like this.
They need it. They're growing still. Yeah. So anyway, this was a fantastic conversation, because everything that you also highlighted and said is something that, I often say, and I say to my clients a lot, these are the things that people genuinely go through in divorce and separation. But I want, before we finish the conversation, I really want people, because, you are a very talented artist. As behind her, you'll see one of her pictures. She's
one of my pieces from United in Love.
Yeah, United in Love series, which is phenomenal. And you do commission work, you do phenomenal photography.
I love doing children commission work, which is lenticulars. Unfortunately, I can't have them up, but I do put them on my Instagram, or you can go to my actual artwork that's been in Sotheby's and places like that. My website is www.nataliegoldsteinlimited.com.
You spell Natalie because there's so many ways to spell Natalie.
Oh, Natalie, and then my last name, Goldstein, limited.com.
Yes. And then I'll put anyway in the notes and everything, your ID account and so forth. But yes, also she's been so kind to say, DM her if you have any questions about
DM me if you got any questions, even if it's not even art related, if it's just mother related, or
you got it all
related,
dating related. I mean,
relating. I could do. Yeah, I'm good at that.
We got another conversation because Well, the last conversation, last chat we had, you and I was on the floor laughing about talking to you about who you're dating. So we definitely need another show.
We should do a dating one, because I actually think that's hilarious. I'd love to do a dating
got
one.
it down to a T. So we'll have another one on that. And thank you, sweetheart, for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure. And you wanted me to answer a question you asked me earlier, and I said ask me at the end.
Oh, that's
like,
right.
What does thriving mean to me? And I think honestly, thriving for me is being happy, and knowing that, you know what, no one will make you happy. You can only make you happy. So when you are happy with you, and you can be okay with you and just happy, you know what, you're gonna have the right energy come into your life. You may not meet that person straight away, but you will. I mean, I know I'm ready I mean, COVID's definitely a killer for this, but you know what, it's just about being ready. And also because, when you love you, you're thriving, and you're not going to let the wrong person come in and sabotage that. Because the minute you see it being sabotaged, you're going to be like, listen, you're going to call them out. You don't have to be mean or horrible. You can actually turn around to someone and say, listen, this is not acceptable to me, because that's my boundary. This is my boundary. And if you don't, that's fine. If that's not how you treat someone, that's okay. It just doesn't work for me.
I love that. I mean, that is such a great definition of thriving, because it's so true. I mean, loving yourself,
loving yourself. But it's the same with friends, right? We have the same thing with our friends right now, especially through COVID. There are some friends that I think of, challenging. And you know what? It's just about putting those boundaries in. And if someone doesn't respect the boundary, then you know what the relationship is. I'm so sorry. Like,
I'm loving it. Are you joking? I love all the impromptu, guests that we've had in this conversation.
Everyone wants. This one's jealous.
It's Sunday. Come on.
He's also jealous because she's taken my lap and he wants in, and
Thank you, Natalie.